All right, thank you. We're going to do a second round, if that's okay with the witnesses. I request a unanimous consent that the subcommittee have a second round of questioning of the witnesses. So without objection, it is so ordered. I want to pick up where Mr. Crane left off about the chips. You're referencing the H20 chip, right? NVIDIA, basically. I know China just said that they were encouraging folks not to buy from NVIDIA, but it was a different chip, right? Do you know anything about that?
Yes, China's trying to indigenize their own chips made by Huawei. DeepSeek was reported to have had some botched efforts using the Huawei chips, and so the Chinese companies are all hungry for American chips.
And then how do we prevent China from getting the chips?
First order is we should not approve the sale of these chips, and to the extent that we do, try to minimize the damage. Senator Jim Banks has a bill called the GAIN AI Act, which would give U.S. companies a first right of refusal to buy the chips that are destined for China. I think that's the least we could do.
Is there a House version of that bill?
I don't believe so, not yet.
Okay.
And then, even with these controls in place, China has very sophisticated smuggling operations. So not a month after the Blackwell series of chips were announced, there was a FT report that China had already smuggled in $1 billion worth of them. And so we need to do much more to crack down on
How did they do that? How were they able to get away with that?
Through third-party intermediaries in Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan. They just, they buy them through these third parties that aren't on the entity list. In some cases, they're even incorporated in the United States, and it's just a matter of getting them over the border.
And are we cracking down on the intermediaries here in the U.S. now? Have you heard anything about that?
There's been some DOJ-style investigations. There's been actions taken in Malaysia and Singapore. We've enlisted the governments in those countries in some cases. The challenge is really one of scale. So once these chips are at the door, how do we know where they're ending up? There's a bill called the Chip Security Act. There's a House version of that would require these chips to have basic location verification installed.
Who's doing that bill?
It's before HVAC right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, Ms. Fabrizio, you said earlier in one of the questioning about China using AI differently. Can you give some examples?
Well, China is using AI for surveillance. They're using it for military purposes. They're, they also don't have privacy in China, and so they use the data differently than we do here. That's why I think it's really important that we continue to move forward. We look for a national AI framework that addresses some of these big issues. It's risk-based, it's tech-neutral, and it allows innovation to continue to flourish here so we can continue to beat China.
Is China our greatest threat?
Yes.
Do you agree, Mr. Hammond, China being the greatest threat?
Certainly on the geopolitical stage.
Dr. Turner-Lee, would you agree?
Yes.
What are the consequences, and this is for all the panelists, if the U.S. fails to outpace China in the race for domination in AI? Ms. Fabrizio?
Well, it's important that we move forward in the best way that we can and that we focus on innovation. We have the best startup ecosystem here. We have the best tech companies here, but we need to not get in their way. So that means a pause on state legislation. It means a federal framework where companies can innovate and know the guardrails and be able to move forward.
Mr. Hammond?
I worry that we need to buy time with China because over the last 40 years, this is part of the deindustrialization story. We've shifted all our industries into services, entertainment, law, finance, all things that are about to be deflated by AI. Whereas, so there's a world where we build the AGI, we build the general intelligence, but China is the one that puts it in factories and has the growth benefits.
There are even people, because I know one personally, someone I'm suing, literally, he's using ChatGPT as his attorney. I just can't think of any, okay, yeah, but we're going to beat the LLM in court. But Dr. Turner-Lee?
I would agree with my colleagues in terms of China being a threat to our dominance in the AI space. I also would put out there, though, that we have to find alternative markets if we're actually going to grow the economy and scale of U.S. companies. So I'm thinking about my experiences with 5G, where we actually opened up other markets. We missed the opportunity to do work with the global majority, the African Union. So just rethinking our industrial policy as we think about China as a threat, as to if we want people to have American products embedded in their technology, where are we selling it to? And making sure we're agile. I do also want to respond that I do think states have to play a role in experimentation. I think the federal government would be too premature to come up with a national policy that limits states' rights, because what we are seeing in terms of the experimentation of states is that they're looking at more consumer protection. AGs are trying to figure out ways to keep our grandmothers safe from AI. They're not necessarily trying to compete against China. They're just competing against the various misnomers and lack of information that people
Well, we
have.
already have that. Like, I got a Nigerian scam the other day in an email that, you know,
right.
I forwarded or take a screenshot and forward it to my family. I'm like, don't click on this.
We do the same
Right?
thing, because we're
So-
not coming to Congress, we're going to our state AG, so we
Yeah.
can't devow like what they're able to do to make sure people are safe.
Yes. Okay. I will now recognize